Thank you, everybody. My name is Rick LaDuca, and I am with Handler Manufacturing, and I have been with Handler now for, this is my 12th year. Handler was founded in 1920. Our mantra is we build durable, quality, and high-performance products that last a long time at affordable prices. Everything we do is built in the USA. Our factory is in Westfield, New Jersey. We're 2 hours away, down the road. All of our sheet metal, all of the benches and cabinetry and products that we build are manufactured in a 35,000 square foot factory in New Jersey. So we are American made, small family business, woman-owned business. We've been around since 1920, and we're going to be around for a long, long time. What we get excited about when it comes to work, we're focused on the customers. We want to make you guys happy, and our customer is you. We don't sell direct. Our customer is you, and our customer is the user. We talk to people all day long in the field. We talk to dentists, we talk to lab techs, we talk to buyers, we talk to owners, we talk to a variety of different people. But ultimately, we work with Benco. We work with the distributor. So our job is to do the best thing we can to take care of your customer, to take care of you. We want to make it easy for you, and we want your customer to be happy. We're interested in technology and innovation. You know, Handler started in 1920. Back in the day, Handler patented many products that are still in use today, denture processing products, the Red Wing lathe, for example, and model trimmers. Handler started out, and we still do, make lab equipment. The founder of Handler was Edward Handler, who was a lab technician who said there's got to be a better way to make dentures. Plain and simple. He started making things like denture flasks, denture presses. Then we got into technology, motor mechanical technology with Red Wing lathes, which is a device that polishes dentures, that grinds, that cuts. So we've been an innovator in the lab. We've developed laboratory furniture, of course. We've developed laboratory polishing equipment. We've developed denture processing equipment that can now cut the time to process a denture by a third or more. So there's a lot of things that we've done. So technology and innovation is something near and dear to us. Sales and marketing, of course. We feel like we make a good product. It lasts a long time. People appreciate it. We go out there and sell it. We're getting involved in social media, of course, etc. And the new ProTech Lake brand inventions, which we'll talk about. Safety. A lot of products we make are involved in safety, splash hoods, dust collection, things like that. Back home, we always talk about efficiency, doing it better, getting it out quicker, getting it to the customer in a more time-sensitive manner. And then, of course, business results. We all need to make money, and we all need to stay in business for the future. We make your total dream practice a reality. This is something that I took from you guys shamelessly. Thank you very much. These are your jobs, and they're gorgeous. You guys should be congratulated. I mean, this work is outstanding, and we're glad to be a part of your lab business. But we want the lab to be part of that reality for you guys and your dentists. So congratulations on some beautiful designs. These are some things that we did. These are some recent jobs that we've created. You know, down in the left-hand corner is a small corner workstation, which is probably adequate for 50% of the dentists in the United States. They need a place to sit, they need a sink to pour models, and a place to put some equipment to process. It could be as simple as that. And then, of course, it could get more complicated. What we want to be able to do is give you the tools to say, we can now do a total solution for this particular customer. I've had instances in the past where we've been called in at the 11th hour to do some lab work, and everything else is done. And it was an oops, we forgot kind of thing. It's not a Benco thing. It's just something that doesn't oftentimes get thought about. And then we come in and we do the best we can after the fact to make sure we're delivering a product, if in fact the customer chooses to do business with us. So these are some of the things that we do. These are private labs, student labs, production labs. That 4 workstation set up in the bottom middle is actually a Benco customer. So there's just an idea of some of the things that we can create. So how do we go from this? This is actually what a customer gave. This is a file that was faxed to me by a distributor. That's actually a space. There's bathrooms down at the bottom. There's doors somewhere. There's dimensions. Plugged in there are verbiage like casting, plaster, denture, crown, ceramist, and then at the top is a short list of benches. Okay, so this is what we get sometimes. Okay, and how do we go from that to a sensible drawing showing some furniture, showing where things would go? And of course, this happens to be a pretty big space that they're going to grow into. By the way, because we have tenure, because we're not a fly-by-night company, and because we're around and we make our products in the USA, if somebody builds something today that says, Rick, I'm going to expand into the future, you're going to get that product a year from now, 2 years from now. It's not going to go away. You're not going to call me up and I'm going to say, oh, geez, we don't buy that anymore. I don't source for that anymore. We do our own painting, our own powder coating facility, which is oven cured. We bend our own sheet metal. We do the welds. We do the cutouts. We do the design. So if a customer says, hey, I want to start small, but I expect to grow in the next 5 to 10 years or by the time I retire, no problem. Colors are not an issue. Metal, what we do is not an issue. So how do we go from that drawing to an AutoCAD drawing? The answer is pretty simple. I tell people in most cases, if you're a little nervous about it, if you don't understand the market, if you don't understand the lab, pick up the phone and call us. Send me an email and say, Rick, I got a customer and he's got a 10 by 10 room. He's not going to have any dedicated lab technicians, but he needs a place to come in. She needs a place to trim models. He needs a place to do adjustments to dentures. He wants to do relines, repairs. Basic information is all we really need to work something up for you. My goal would be at some point down the road, not in the too distant future, is to give you the tools and say, here's all our templates. We'll give it to Heather or whoever she designates. Here is all the handler templates. Here's what they are used for. You can now plot this into the space if you want. And then you can call me and say, hey, Rick, let me send you a PDF of what I've done. And I might say, well, okay, wait a second, the doorway is over there. Why are you putting shipping and receiving bench over here? Maybe we need to re-engineer the workflow a little bit. But it's really not that hard. Blueprint files are always the best thing to work in. AutoCAD is what we use. What do you use? You use an AutoCAD or SolidWorks? AutoCAD, great. A lot of people smell a lot, but some people are moving SolidWorks. So we'll talk more about that. Gather as much information as you can. We actually have tools. There are certain documents that we use, and those are available. Sandy has a CD that she's going to give to Heather, but we have documents that can explain to you, simple written documents. Here's what a dentist needs, whether it's a handler product or not. We put products on that list that we don't manufacture because we don't manufacture it. So there are things that a dentist might need that don't come from handler, but it's on that list so you have a reference material. So we have tools. We have a sales aid, why handler, why lab layout, how do you do certain things. There's a lab profile document. You could actually give a customer a document and say, you know what, you got a minute, can you fill this out? Email it to them, say, can you fill this out? That doesn't happen a lot because you don't want your dentist to be tied down with stuff like that. But on rare occasions, if they're willing to give you formal feedback, there are profile documents that they can fill out. So we have some tools. In a more elaborate sense, the whole process is a little more detailed, of course, and we don't need to read every point here, but we compile data, we create AutoCAD files, we configure a solution. We don't travel. You are our salesman. I don't have an external sales force. You're looking at the person who gets involved in all of our layout designs. I have help back home, but this is part of the business that I take very seriously, so I'm involved in it at this point. But we don't travel. Now, I met one of your reps here earlier this morning. He was a local rep, and we have a job. He handed me a drawing file, a little bit better than what we saw up on the screen, but this is a hand drawing. It probably took 2 hours to do this. There are several wall dimensions, and it's an odd-shaped building, but this is in Bartonsville, Pennsylvania. I'll get a car, come and see the person. I don't care. We have another customer that's in Philadelphia. I'm actually going to deliver the job to next week because I want to go to the lab, I want to see the customer, and I have a vested interest too because I get to take pictures of that lab now that it's complete. We do ask the customer, once the drawings are completed, you may go through the same process, but clearly they need to be approved and signed. If you tell me a wall is 10 feet and we get there with 10 feet worth of cabinetry and benches, and it's 9.6, well, you know, there was a breakdown, but we need to understand, and that gives the customer some skin in the game and say, wait a second, you know, I'll always say to people, please verify dimensions. You guys do. Then we get a purchase order from you. The average lead time is about 6 to 10 weeks, and that fluctuates. We are a manufacturer, we have a production schedule. We have departments. Okay? From time to time, we can pull and move resources. We can reschedule certain jobs based upon needs. And there are busier times of the year and there are slower times of the year. There are times when we have holiday and vacation, etc. Smaller lab layouts, dental labs like this, that are a few benches, few cabinets, we can get done in a month, month and a half. Larger projects, larger in scope, from the time you get a purchase order and sign prints, could take 10 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, and then I know how the world is. Okay, doctors may take a year to make a decision. Once the decision is made, they're going, okay, are we done yet? Sure, no problem. We ship the order with Benco. We have a logistics department, you have a supply chain. We work with folks on that. Our casework, our benches are all crated. Everything is carefully packed. We use oversized skids. Everything is wrapped, everything is strapped, everything is crated. So when it gets to a site, there is a lot of uncrating to do, and there is a lot of packaging to do. Everything gets shipped. In the meantime, while all this is happening, the customer has to tell us what's going on at their site. Is there prep work? Is there infrastructure? When we get to the nitty-gritty of design, they want to know where the utilities go. Electric, air, gas, data, stuff. We don't install. We have a great installer. It's a company we work with. He's done many jobs for us. In fact, he's on his way down to North Carolina next week to do a VA hospital for us. Tremendous company. You guys have your folks. If you need a quote for install, we can do a quote for install. Just want to let you know. It's no revenue to handler. It doesn't flow through. I usually just set up a relationship. If you want to talk to somebody or you want to quote, we can provide it. Once it ships, the order is complete, and we're always available to talk after the fact with regard to install, if there's questions with install. Ultimately, there may be issues. Things get there, they're damaged, we have to replace, we have to remanufacture. We work those things out if that occurs. If we do our job correctly up front, if we get good information, everything usually goes without a change. When it comes to install, the main point I want to make is that you guys, I don't know how to install an operatory. Probably very complicated. You have air lines, you have water lines, you have data lines, you have electric, you have, I doubt you may have gas, you may have nitrous oxide, you may have all kinds of things that you need to hook up. In a lab, our product is assembled using 1/4-inch nuts and bolts. Cabinetry in the casework is so easy to install. In a typical install, the customer may have a contractor. They may do the lab themselves, you may do it for them, and then you bring your plumber in, your electrician in to do the hookups. It's really not complicated, okay? And that's in a little more detail what our process is. These are just, the next few slides are just some of the work that we've done. This is actual AutoCAD, these are PDF files, but these are AutoCAD files of work that we've done. We do a lot of custom work. You give me an office, you give me a room, and I'm not just going to say, well, here's the catalog, pick out a bench and put it in there. Rooms all different. I just showed you something that Kevin Swicklick gave me, and the room was all odd angles. Well, we can accommodate that. We can do custom work because we do our own manufacturing. But here's a blueprint. It shows the lab in plan view. It shows the lab in elevated view. If a customer wants 3D, we can do 3D. 3D takes a longer time. It's a little more complicated. You guys can render in 3D, most likely, so that's not an issue for you. But how do you show a customer a 3D file? You show them on your laptop, you bring it to them electronically. If you want to do that, that's great. In our world, it's not used a lot because it's a simplified solution. Here's another, we do mechanical templates, which I can give Heather in electronic form or AutoCAD. So this is a mechanical file of a particular bench. It shows you distances, vertical and horizontal, and where gas and air hookups are, electric, suction, things like that. So that's something we can provide. Custom workstation. This is a plaster bench. This is a catalog item, model 231 plaster bench. We sell dozens of them every year. They go into locations. It's a place to process. When they pour a model, they can do model trimming, they have a sink, etc. But this guy wanted 4 shelves. I don't know, he had a high ceiling, he has a lot of casework. No big deal. You want 4 shelves? I'll give you 4 shelves. It's unusual, but it worked for him. So we can do custom work.
Do you have an inventory of the standard cabinetry?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's in the catalog, and that's what I'm going to supply you, after we talk and after this meeting with those templates. But there are standard items in the catalog that, we don't stock those items. Everything is custom built because of colors and so forth.
That was my next question. If these are standard items and they're, I was that was a question if they are stock, are you still waiting 6 to 10 weeks for it?
No.
Okay, because you are building one.
Here's a good point. I'm going to retract my statement just a little bit. This bench, you may or may not be able to tell, but this is modular. These are 3 cabinets that we bring together to form one workstation, one plaster bench. What you're seeing here is a double door. These are stand-up height cabinets, but a double door, steel, 18 gauge, everything we do is steel. Double door cabinet with a sink, a 4-door cabinet for storage, and a single door cabinet for equipment or storage. When this gets shipped, forget the shelves for a second, this gets shipped in 3 crates. They're clearly marked, and you bring them out of the crates. They come together, holes are pre-drilled, we supply you with the hardware. Literally, if someone just said, hey, I need a plaster bench, and you send me a purchase order, the components of that, the modules, 9.5 times out of 10, or 95 times out of 100, those modules are prefabricated. I have double door cabinets, I have 4-door cabinets, and I have single door cabinets in stock. They're not painted. You tell me what you need. Now, the good news is, you as a customer, as a user, might say, you know what? I need that. Can you put the sink on the other side? Can you put it in the middle? Can you put the 4-drawer on the right? For some reason, I want it over there. Great, no problem. So it's modular, and I can move blocks around. So yeah, the components are in stock. And if need be, and I know Sandy, who's very involved in production, does our scheduling, our MRP and our ERP, we're always cautious about what we quote and when we quote it. But if it's in stock, if the components are in stock and it's out of the catalog, we can react quicker. Okay? And it depends on the scope of work. If you said, hey Rick, I need a plaster bench, no problem. If you said, hey Rick, I need 100 of them, that's a different deal. Great, let's do the deal, but it's not going to happen next week. You know what I mean? So we can do custom work. Here's just another lab. This is a full service lab that we did. I don't remember if this was for a dentist or a commercial lab, but there are now rooms and departments. So things are split up in this particular lab. And that's just a plan. This is an elevated view of the full service lab. We can do tooth, you're going to see we do a lot of customization. We can do tooth counters too. I don't know if you're familiar with those. In a lab, the lab buys teeth, guys, Dentsply, whatever, for dentures, and those teeth are kept in cabinets that have very thin drawers, almost like old blueprint. If anybody ever saw an old blueprint cabinet. You guys keep blueprints, or is it all electronic? You keep them rolled up in your office somewhere? I don't know. There are these blueprint cabinets that have very thin drawers, wide drawers, and when you're in a lab, if you're shading teeth, if you're selling teeth, and some labs will want that, they go into these drawers and they match up shades. So it's called a tooth cabinet. We can stuff like that too. Some of the things that we can do, that we have done for people, that are nice little details to add to the cabinets. We can do in-drawer storage for plaster. We make a plaster bin that's in the catalog, you hang it on the wall, you dump your plaster in, and when you need it, you scoop it out. But when you're doing that, it's a little bit hard to take a 25-pound bag of plaster for man or woman, and you're bending over a cabinet, you're trying to dump it into a wall-mounted plaster bin. We can do in-drawer plaster storage. So instead of me trying to do that, now when I pour a model, I open a drawer, I scoop the plaster out, I mix fix it up, and I go do my thing. So we can do in-drawer. We can do hands-free controls. Kick plate, we can do that. If the dentist is worried about infection control, people should be worried about that. We can do hands-free. We can customize, we can match paint colors. We have about 7 standard colors that we use. They're all in your showroom here. But we've had people that say, Rick, I want to match up. I want it to match operatory. I had one guy, he wanted the paint to match his boat. It's okay, send me the color. I matched it up. Unfortunately, if you want to do something like that, it's going to cost because I have to buy a certain amount of paint. Our paint supplier can do whatever we want, but it's going to cost about $500 to match our paint. If that's what you want, no problem. Sometimes I caution people on how it's going to look, but no problem. We can do stainless steel tops. You have one in here. And when we do a stainless steel top, it's generally a wet area. We do a marine edge. A marine edge is a raised edge to keep water from rolling off the floor. It's a nice little detail that some people overlook, and when you're walking on the floor, you don't want to slip. It's a safety hazard and/or it gets messy. We can do, in our ProTech Light series of benches, armrests. If you're pulling out an in-drawer suction, you have a nice padded armrest so your arms don't hurt if they get damaged somehow. Stainless steel work surface protector. We have retractable air on the bench. We can do eye wash stations. I had a guy in North Carolina who had OSHA come into his lab before he did it. OSHA said, you need all this stuff. Well, you know what? He actually, now he kept himself from getting into trouble down the road because he engaged OSHA early on. OSHA said you need suction, you need shields, you need eye wash, you need this and that. No problem. We'll give you an eye wash station. No big deal. We can do standalone denture processing and polishing equipment for larger labs. Now, so more and more dentists are getting involved in not only doing their own work, but they're saying, hey, if I actually have a lab, maybe I can bring work in from the outside and make some money. Dentists are always looking for work. We can do a backsplash or a riser. A backsplash is what you have in your kitchen. Just a 4 or 6 inch backsplash against the wall. If people want a chase or a riser because they want to run conduit back there, we can do that as well. No problem. Again, we manufacture our own casework and our own steel. We can do that kind of stuff. Multiple suction inlet options. We can go bench top, we can go under bench, we can go in drawer. Air, gas, and electric utilities. We can put on the bench. We can give you electricity. We can give you the air and the gas hookups. We can pre-wire and sometimes even pre-plumb. Depends on the solution. I was telling Sue Evans before, our new ProTech Light line, we have a bench that is basically, everything is wired, everything is plumbed. All you got to do is bring your line and connect it, and it has a 6-foot cord, a 6-foot grounded cord set that you plug in. You have lights, you have suction, you have power. Okay? And if the job is small, medium, or large, put handler in charge, it doesn't matter. You know, it depends on the scope of work, when it's delivered or how it's done, but we can do it, we can lay it out. As I talked to John earlier, we don't win them all. Customers will make their decisions based upon functionality, price mostly. Some folks will want to go out and have it built. Fine. We don't charge for this type of upfront service. A lot of folks say, well, you should be charging for it, and then you can credit it back. We do it because we anticipate that we're going to get some good customer business out of this, and hopefully some repeat business. So these are some of the things we can do. These are a list of recent projects that we've worked on. Some are in the pipeline now. Some are already done. Some are group practices and repeat business. We've gone as far as Turks and Caicos. Lenny Lenz, who handles the Caribbean for you guys, came to me. We did 2 jobs down in the islands. Now that was one I would have visited. But I didn't go, but you know, I mean, there you go. We don't do a lot of export when it comes to benches. We export equipment a lot to various countries around the world. Benches is hard. Benches are heavy, big, distribution cost prohibitive, but if the opportunity presents itself, we did, with regard to benches, I think we've gone as far as Russia. One project in Russia, the islands, some in South America, Mexico, Canada, but yeah, they're close by. So these are some of the things that we've done. Our list goes on. Resources are available on handlernfg.com, which I have up here. I mean, our 3rd iteration of a website. When I got to Handler in 2001, There was no web presence, so we're building it, we're trying to make it interactive, we're trying to put tools up, we're doing things like creating more video, instructional stuff for customers, trying to make it easier for you guys and the customer. But there are tools available. We have tools back home, we have tools on that DVD, and we can incorporate what we do into your job so you get ahead of it. And if you're real focused on the operatory, which if I were you, I would be, because I understand that's where your revenue, your main revenue stream is, and that's the area of concentration. That's where a doctor makes his or her money. We can do the lab for you. It's up to you. We can give you the tools. You can just let us do it. We'd like to be a part of what you're doing. And we can take that to any of your regions around the country. So that is my presentation. I thank you for your time. And if you have any other questions, we can discuss it further. We have information over here that we can hand out to you. And I appreciate it very much.
What
Yes,
version of AutoCAD are you using?
We just purchased 2010 or 13? 10. We actually have a version of 2013, but for the operators in the office, we're using 2010 version.
Just so if we said, well, 2013, but if we're going to send a file to you,
We can convert it.
Convert
We
it?
can, if you can, send it in 2010. It's a great question because just for the sake of time and not having to ask you to do more work, we'll let the 2010 comfortably. We can convert it. We do have a version of 2013, but the version we share is 2010. Thank you. Any other questions?
I just saw a picture from on a bench. Does it make any difference what side of the seat the motion is on, or is it dependent on the doctor's preference?
Plumbing this is all it is. You need needed space. I mean, if you have a wall here, and for some reason you want to put your sink here, it might be uncomfortable to work on an option. It doesn't matter. Equipment. Model trimmers. It depends. They're going to want to, if they want to have it plumbed directly to a line. They might want to just bring the water from the spigot on the sink. They might want to hardwire the drain, or they might just want to run in the sink. But it really doesn't matter.
So you need like a closet basically for a lab. I never really thought about it much, so that's all.
And one thing you want to do is try to stay away from dry trimming. Some people around the country, I know like in California, they have laws. They're worried about the waste. Make sure you always have a plaster trap. Too wet, make sure it's a plaster trap. Dry trimming, you need a bigger solution for dry trimming. It's more expensive because with dry trimming, you need a dust collector to suck the dry dust out. If they're doing 4, 5, 6 cases a day, they're going to fill up that dust collector quick. They're going to be changing sanding this quick. And what they're going to do is they're not going to have the patience to wait till the model is dry to trim. And if they do that, and they dump up the trimmer, and a general practitioner who has a small office is going to need a place to sit down with the equipment to do some hand work, to do some polishing and grinding. It's going to need some storage for cases, some storage for materials. It's probably going to need a vibrator. Someone's pouring models. Bubbles out, he needs a trimmer, he needs a sink, he needs some shelving. We do wall storage to give them some more space instead of just playing with cabinetry, wall storage. Any other questions?
Go describe the plan and walk logistically why things are set up and what action happens. Does everybody know what happens at different locations or why they are where they are? No.
Okay.
I think maybe if you can get into a little bit more design plan of it and the reasoning and
Good. I can.
the action.
There you go.
Okay. So this is a doctor who said, "Here's my room. They have 2 sit-down workstations. This looks like a denture lab." Okay. So we have the room, we see where the door is, and we gather information. He says, "I'm going to have 2 people in there, and I'm going to be making dentures." Now I can see there's a boil out unit at the top of the screen. That's a larger production unit. So this particular doctor wants to process multiple cases. He's not just going in, he is not going into his lab just to trim dies or just to do repairs and relines. He's in this particular lab situation was put in place because he wants to control the process. He wants to make money off of his lab. He says, I have 2 people and I want to process dentures. Okay, so I say, okay, well, in order to process dentures, first of all, if you have 2 people, you need a place for 2 people to sit. Those are the 2 benches down below. Okay? If you're processing dentures and you're doing multiple cases, you're going to need a plaster bench. You're going to be pouring up models. So you're going to need a plaster bench with a sink. And you're going to need some processing area for workflow, for equipment. And you're going to need some kind of denture curing unit. You're curing acrylics. You're making dentures. That's how you make dentures. And once the denture is done, you need a place to polish, to finish and polish. We say, okay. Now, I don't remember in this particular case where if plumbing existed when we made it fit to plumbing standards, but basically we had to incorporate those factors into this solution in this space. So he said, all right, one of the things that I want to consider is where the people are actually sitting down and working. I want that to be as far away from denture processing as I possibly can. Denture processing means you're curing at 165 degrees in water, or you're boiling out the wax in the denture at 210 degrees Fahrenheit. So I don't want to be sitting next to a boil-out unit that's throwing off 15,000 BTUs, or has a 2 kilowatt and 3 kilowatt heating element if it's electric. So I said, okay, let me try and get those people as far away from there as I can. Okay? And let me put polishing is the last thing that happens, so I'm going to put it over there. In the workflow, when you're making a denture, everything starts from the impression that's taken in the operatory. Then you pour a model, you pack it, you pack the denture, you pack the teeth, you cure it, you take it out. I'm simplifying, once you take it out, you finish it, you grind it, you polish it, you fit it, you make adjustments, and you're done. Very simplified version of it. So in a room this size, we're not really worried about, oh, I got to take this case out to that department or that department. Everything is pretty much in the same area, but what you want to do is try and keep it as clean as you can, as ergonomic as you can, and as safe as you can. So I want my users who are actually going to be sitting at those workstations, I gave them a dust collector that they can share. So when they're grinding acrylic, grinding stone, plaster, porcelain, metal, that is being sucked out of the work area and into a containment container. So now the case comes in over here. We're able to pour a model in the plaster area. We're able to let that dry. We're able to trim the model. They have a vacuum mixer here too. That's mixed to porcelain. Now they go back to their workstation. They're packing the denture, and then they're using boil-out unit to cure. Once it's done, we have processing area on the left side where they get, and that's a polishing station at the top left-hand corner where you see lathe. So now the workflow in here is going to come in the door. It's going to go to the plaster bench. It's going to go to the vacuum mixer, go to the plaster bench, get worked on at the sit-down workstations. Those are our model 211 benches. Get cured, and then go to polish, and then come back. If it was a multiple room operation, or if it was a larger room, the workflow would have tried to follow a pattern. So this particular dentist said, hey, I'm making dentures, this is what I'm doing. And what really matters when you're gathering data, if you really want to net it out and make it simple, when you're gathering data, a lot of dentists don't have time, a lot of dentists don't want to be bothered. Net it out. Doc, is it just you in the lab coming in and out as needed? Or are you going to have dedicated people in there? I'm going to have Megan, I'm going to have one guy full-time. I'm going to have, he's going to be doing crown and bridge for me. And then I'm going to have some guy coming in here part-time to do dentures for me. And I'm going to be running in and out, so I need a place to stay. Great. So the concentration after listening to that is crown and bridge, some denture work, and and I need to be in there maybe after 5 when my patients are gone, I got some work to do. This particular guy said, I'm dentures. That's what I'm doing. Okay? Now, if you're getting into crown, so dentures, you need denture processing. You need to cure acrylic. Crown and bridge is a different twist, because crown and bridge involves, if you're making crown and bridge, you need an oven, furnace to bake porcelain. They may want to get into CAD/CAM. You guys are selling the Amann Durbach. If they're selling CAD/CAM, you need a place to put that equipment. You need processing areas. They're going to start milling crown and bridge. Different animal. I think I might have a crown and bridge lab on here. So to net it out, Doc, is it you and your partner, or are you going to have lab techs in there, number one? Number two, give me volume. How many crowns are you doing a day? 1, 5, 10, 50? I mean, you know when you walk into a practice, if it's a big practice, they're doing multiple cases. If it's, you know, Rick's Dental, and it's me and my son, or, you know, me and a partner, hey, you know, we're pushing through maybe 3 or 4 crowns a day. You get a sense for it, but ask, how many are you doing? I need to know. Is there anything in particular that you want in your lab that you can tell me, that you absolutely need? On this disc is that resource that says, here's what a dentist needs. But it's a full list, and I've tried to highlight certain things as important. Okay? But there are certain things that a dentist is going to need no matter what. So this is how a room might be set up, and this is how you get there. Now, this also, I put the plaster bin on the wall, as you can see here. What I try to do is, if you give me a space, and I get some information that says, here's what you need, I'm going to try and fill that space comfortably. And if you say, like in the example I showed before, you have a big space and you want to start out small, that's fine. But this is the room. I'm going to give him a lot of as much processing space as I can, because he needs to work. I mean, he's going to have equipment in here. So give him the cabinetry for storage, give him the cabinetry for work, instead of everything crammed together on one bench. It's nicely laid out. Does that help? Does that make any sense? I mean, because I'm talking, then tell me if it doesn't, because I'm talking from my knowledge, and I may be taking certain things for granted or making certain assumptions. It does? Let me see if I have another example that I think, okay, this is crown and bridge. All right? This little blue item over here, it says casting in the future. This tells me this is crown and bridge. Why? Because you're casting metal coatings. And I know that our model 213 is a larger bench that Ceramis needs. Ceramis will generally want a little more space than just a smaller work area. So in this particular instance, he or she, I can't remember which, is going to have a dedicated person to doing crown and bridge. Still, you need a plaster area. You're always going to need a sink in a lab. You're going to need a plaster area, because if you're doing any kind of work, you're going to pour bottles, you're going to trim bottles. Everything starts from the impression. If they're going to do work in a lab, they're going to pour bottles, they're going to need that. They're going to need a place to put plaster. There again is the 81C, that is a wall-mounted plaster bin. You can see the model trimmer set up next to the sink. So here's your doorway. It comes in. The workflow on this is, the product comes in, this particular person is more concerned about infection control, so there's a sink. The product is going to come in, go to the left, it's going to be rinsed and disinfected before anything happens. Then it's going to come around, it's going to go through the model phase, which is pouring the model. There's a vibrator. So they're going to pour the model, they're going to vibrate the bubbles out, they're going to let it set and harden. As it hardens, they're going to trim the model. At that point, the patient usually comes back in for a second meeting, and the dentist says, here's your bite. This is what you got. This is what we're going to do. We're going to put this, we're going to cut this, we're going to file this tooth down, I'm going to give you a coping, we're going to do a crown. So there's your model. He comes back for a second, the customer comes back, and they do their thing. Then it's going to come around, and then he's going to go to his workstation, and he's going to build up. He has a technician who's going to build up a crown. Now, there's no technology here in CAD/CAM where this was done, so he's going to do it the old-fashioned way, which is still probably 80% of the way crowns are made, 75-ish, and that's, he's going to build up a crown from the coping. Once the model is poured, they do the coping out of metal or out of zirconia, and then they build up the crown. Now, where he's having it baked, I'm not sure in this particular situation. He may have put an oven on one of these corner workstations, where, and he may have subsequently got a casting bench where he has a casting area to cast the metal coping. But then he's going to bake it, he's going to paint the glaze, and he's going to have the patient come back and he's going to fit it. So that's how this flow goes in this particular instance. So I found out in talking to this person, infection control was important. He was going to be making crown and bridge. He wasn't interested in dentures, so we don't need a denture processing unit. Still need a polishing area because you need to polish the crown as well once it's got once it's glazed and it's painted. Make sense a little bit? Okay. You know, I've been doing it for 12 years, so again, if something doesn't make sense, or if I'm talking in terms that, you know, why would you put something in? And as you guys pointed out, Mark did specifically, there's usually not a lot of room. So when you talk about workflow, you try to make it as comfortable as you can, but this is probably bigger than a typical space, 9 by 16, 150 square feet. You know? So, and you got a door. This is a Crown Bridge lab also. Now this may be a lab, I'm not sure if this is a doctor's office or not. But here we're able to actually separate functions. In the middle is where people are coming up from downstairs. The lab is upstairs, or downstairs, I can't remember which. Right by the stairs is the shipping department, so everything comes in through shipping. Okay? We've separated the plaster area. We've separated the porcelain department. Very important. If they're painting and glazing porcelain, you're trying to match a tooth. I got a crown right here. You want your porcelain, if you have room, if they're going to separate, like Kevin just gave me a design this morning, they want to do crown and bridge, I'm going to try and separate that porcelain department if I can, because you don't want dust or debris settling on that tooth while the technician is painting it up, because when it gets put the patient out, it's going to match. And if you ruin a crown, you just ruin a lot of money. You got to redo it. The patient's unhappy, it costs the guys money. So if you can keep porcelain separate for sanitary and for cleanliness, do that. You don't always get this kind of room. So rarely do you get this kind of room. So the plaster, the dirty area has been separated, porcelain has been separated, and metal is all the way over there because metal creates dust. Typically, you get a small room, and I will say in the dentist environment, we're used to working in 100 to 200 square feet of space. Do you or do you not have dedicated people that have got to sit there, or do you just need a workstation for yourself? You want a sink, you want a place to pour models, you need storage. Is there anything in particular that, because some dentists are very, very control-oriented and know exactly what they want. I had a guy in North Carolina who didn't want any standard furniture whatsoever. He came to a show and he gave me his plans and said, this is what I want. It was hand-drawn. We customized everything for him. Everything, because he wanted it a certain way. He told us, all I had to do was design it and formulate it, come up with cost to manufacture it, and say, well, here you go. This is what you want to do. It was his workflow.
Rick, normally when we have our, like a VIP for talking with an ES or a doctor, and we'll ask that question, you know, is it just a portable lab, or are you going to get into the furniture and everything?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's, you know, 'cause they got a lot of doctors, you know, probably about 90% of them, that are outsourcing all their lab work. You know.
So they just want, if they want anything at all, it's pretty basic stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. And that's great. And, you know, the industry's evolving. Some people want to get, some folks, some dentists want to get more involved in the lab. Some have great relationships and they like the way that works. Some want to co-locate, some want to, they don't want to own the lab, but they want to bring a lab next to them, so they have preferential treatment. So, and relationships, folks that have been doing it for 10, 20 years, they have their relationships in this town. And that's great. That's great. So again, there's another example. I hope that helps. So the past 2 or 3 examples and how we lay something out or what we look at for different applications, does that sort of help you out in terms of workflow and how we configure something, a solution? Any other?
This plan, actually. I noticed that lower plaster part of the cabinet is kind of set in that back wall. Is that to kind of separate the areas a little bit more, create kind of barrier between the dust and the?
On the right-hand side?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I figured out the reason.
So I remember this one. I didn't actually say, well, let's just put plaster here.
Yeah.
This was something that their vision, this is how they wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Now, I think why it was done this way is to allow for future growth down here. Because if I had done it the way, there are many ways to do it, but I might have taken that plaster area and brought it down and said, why do you need it in the middle of the floor? But as I recall from this particular job, he wants to grow into this area. And I think at that point, they've been looking at putting in an AutoCAD workstation of some kind to say, hey, I want to expand my technology.
Yeah.
Because even from a plumbing perspective, plumbing isn't usually in the middle floor.
Yeah.
Right? It's usually along the wall. I don't remember too many details, but yeah, that's why.
I know I have this, I apologize. Did anybody ask the question of like turnaround times? So, like say someone gives you a quote and then you draw from our DWG, from when you get that to when you provide a solution, what do you tell them? What do you tell them?
Great question. No, I don't believe that did come up. We talked about lead times in actual production. Perfect example again this morning, Kevin Swicklett, one of your reps, we've been talking about Dr. Tamari the past couple of days. He gave me that hand drawing that I showed you. I told him that I would have something roughed out. My work, I'm going to take what the doctor gave, I would put it on paper. I would have it roughed out by Tuesday. I would then hand it off, so 2 days. I would hand it off to one of our draftsmen. He would then take my rough drawing and he would create an AutoCAD file. He would refine it. He would make a workflow. He would have it back Wednesday, Thursday. In some cases, if it's an urgent situation, it's time sensitive, we can turn something around. A non-complicated small dentist lab within 48 hours. And important.
Why does it go to you and not just to?
Because the designer we have, the people we have working in, because I get out to the field, because I understand the dentist lab. I'm the guy that's been working with the dentist for 12
The
years.
person in the design.
We're training others to do that. I've got 2 other people that I'm working with to take some of that responsibility as well. But right now, I'm a little bit protective of it because I understand what can go wrong. And when they can finally get to the point where they can do this kind of thing, that we're going to have a bigger department. And it's a training thing as well too. But you could say within, now if it's a large, multiple room solution, that requires some going back and forth, it's going to take a little longer. But if I get a drawing, like I did from Kevin, maybe I have a question or 2 Monday. By Tuesday, Wednesday, he's going to have a rough AutoCAD file and a quote. In that case, I'll come up here and see the dentist because it's an hour and a half drive. But otherwise, he would take that to the dentist most likely. And he would, now, I'm going to give you, for you guys, I can give you AutoCAD files. Usually I send out PDFs. Okay? You can take the AutoCAD files because you're going to want to work. At the beginning, if I do work, you're going to want to take my file and put it into your larger file. Yes. Those are called, on the front of the catalog, on those student workstations is what we call a fish mouth. It is a suction mouth. It's a resin material, plastic mold basically. And this solution, this is the student lab that I referred to earlier. They're going to be putting a handpiece at every workstation, and they're going to have suction as they're working on their prosthetic, their application. So that is the oldest and most standard method of suction inlet in the industry. Benchtop, I'm sitting at my workstation, and I'm working right here. It's being drawn down into the dust collector from the benchtop. I'm glad you asked that because I mentioned before, with multiple suction inlets, you can use something called a splasher. You can attach a splasher to the bench on the bench top and have suction to a splasher, which is a different type of device. We can now take that suction off the workstation and put it in a drawer. But in this particular case, it's called a fish mouth because when you look at it, it's a very wide opening, and it allows for it. It's actually a very, very good way to collect dust because it has such a wide opening. Lighting is not something, you know, I always ask when I'm involved in a situation, lighting can be very important to some people and not important to others. If you're doing a lot of shading, matching, lighting is critical. So they might want color corrected lighting, they might task lighting. The overwhelming majority of the applications, when I get into a real lab situation with a client, we talk lighting. In a dentist situation, I bring it up and I say, hey, how's your overhead lighting? Depends upon the application. You know, some of our benches, like our ProTech Light Series, which is on the back cover of the catalog, we put a 3-foot fluorescent, 2-bulb fluorescent light on there. It's a beautiful light. It's not color corrected, but it gives an ample lighting. Some folks want task lighting, adjustable task lighting that they can pull down and they can look at something right here. You need to look at it right here. Depends on what they want.
So you don't have like a light box.
Fine light box.
Like, we don't have one, but interiors, architectural offices that I work in, will have a box and it'll have
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Kelvin lights, so you could bring a finish, same thing with color matching, so you can see it in investment, you can see LED, see it natural Kelvin as a high Kelvin.
We don't really have a lot of options when it comes to lights. There are companies out there that are specialists at it, like Laser, they do a pretty good job. We probably have certain suppliers in lighting. And if it's not something that we're strong in, I tell you that. I say, you know what, if a user calls me, if a dentist calls me and says, you know, hey, I like your stuff, but can you do this? I'll generally say no. We're going to work with Benco, work with your dealer, because they have a catalog that's this thick, and they have companies that specialize in that. That's not necessarily okay.
Our company tried to put a window in their lab, get natural daylight too, so there's some light for, you know, if you want the light for color match, you want to see it in daylight, not under fluorescent light, so if you want to see the person's moving out in color, you get it under daylight.
Absolutely. Great point, by the way. If there's windows, any opportunity I get where there's a window, an outside wall, and the lab involves sit-down workstations, I almost always try and put a workstation by the window for a couple reasons. Natural lighting, and me as the user who's sitting there all day, I like it. Sounds funny, but something to look at, you know, because I might be, if I'm a technician, I'm on a bench all day, you know. So great point. I mean, if there's windows, we use them.
Yeah.
We definitely use them. Okay? Anything else? I mean, we're down the road. You got the email, you have the phone number. Whatever comes up, we'll be glad to help you with. It's not just, okay, well, we're leaving now. At the end of that, go forth and do your thing. So just give us a call. I want you guys to know that, and I'm not just saying this because we're here at Benco. I don't say this to a lot of people. This is a great organization. You folks do great work. We have an affinity towards Benco because of the fact that you are a privately held company, and we have a great working relationship in all aspects of the business: back office, marketing, sales, logistics, you name it. Sue here at the showroom's great. We built some great, I personally built some great friendships, and I appreciate it very much. Handler appreciates it. If you guys need anything, just let us know. I really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.